Welcome to the tale of Todd and Julie Chrisley's undoing. A tale of blackmail, fraud, and sex tapes.
Yesterday, a federal jury found them guilty on all charges in their fraud case. Prosecutors say Todd and Julie took out $30 million in fraudulent bank loans to fund their lavish lifestyle.
In a year, we probably spend $300,000, sometimes more, just on clothing.
But before we get started, if you like videos about conspiracies or debunking popular misconceptions, or yes, now we're adding white-collar crimes of D-list celebrities, consider subscribing. You might also want to hit the bell notification because while we want to upload every week, that doesn't always happen. So if you click the bell, you'll be notified to our somewhat sporadic upload schedule. Before Andrew alerted me to this story, I had never heard of the Chrisleys, and I'm so glad he brought it to my attention because I love white-collar crime. It's just like, you didn't have to do this. You could have just been rich. But no, that would have been too easy. You had to hide your money from the IRS because you just love drama. Why?
I think that our show relates to so many people because we have real problems. And I feel like we would be a fraud if we were not letting you see all of the real stuff.
Chrisley Knows Best is a popular reality show on the USA Network, closing in on the second half of its 9th season. The show revolves around Todd and Julie Chrisley and their 5 children, Kyle, Lindsie, spelled very wrong, Savannah, Chase, and Grayson. We get it, you're Southern. Todd Chrisley presents himself as a real estate magnate with a comically perfectionist parenting style.
He's the patriarch of perfection.
We're not perfect.
But perfect should be something you should strive to be.
In June of this year, a federal jury found Todd and Julie Chrisley, along with their accountant, guilty of tax evasion, conspiracy, and bank fraud. They face up to 30 years in prison.
I've seen a lot of media reports that they are facing 30 years in prison. I don't know who's coming up with these numbers, but I'm just going to let you know. We are talking about conspiracy to commit bank fraud. That carries the same amount of time as the underlying crime of bank fraud. Bank fraud carries 30 years each, up to $1 million fine, up to 30 years each. There are 6 counts of bank fraud. So I don't see any reason why these couldn't stack. So I'm seeing the maximum potentially being much higher than just 30 years. It would be 30 years on one of these counts. But as to Todd Chrisley, there are 9 counts.
From 2007 to 2012, the Chrisleys and their former business partner presented banks with falsified financial statements that suggested they had a much higher net worth than was the case in order to obtain massive amounts of loans.
Find a crooked accountant to do it. Ask Redacted who her guy uses for his crooked shit. Oh my.
It seemed to be in part a Ponzi scheme where they would take out new loans to pay off their previous loans. We also used the money to live a conspicuously luxurious lifestyle with expensive cars and designer clothes and tacky but large pieces of real estate. While they did make real money off of Chrisley Knows Best, they made moves to hide the money from the IRS. They did not file tax returns from 2013 to 2016. In order to hide the money, they created a corporate account under Julie's name and funneled all of the money for the show into her account, as well as money from other business ventures. When the IRS asked about the account that was under Julie's name, they then transferred the account to Todd's mother. Sentencing is scheduled for October of 2022, and until then, they remain under house arrest. I watched the first few episodes of season 1, and I think even in these very first few episodes, you can see Todd's phoniness shining through. I don't think any of us should be surprised that he was found guilty of fraud, for reasons that I'll get into. While we're meant to laugh at Todd's bizarre controlling behavior and obsession with his teenage daughter's body,
Savannah's not wearing a coochie cutter. You look like Pamela Anderson.
Well, that's what I'm striving to be.
We also get a few glimpses of his supposed business ventures. In the first season, Todd Chrisley talks about opening a department store, which he wants to call Chrisley & Company. He meets with a buyer, and he takes the opportunity to fat shame and alienate his potential customer base. I picture the Chrisley & Company customers being up 4 or 6. Then the department store vanishes. They never bring it up in subsequent seasons. I saw an interview that he did with Wendy Williams where she asks about the department store.
That you're spending money and I'm not seeing where it's coming from. Like, how do you...
I've been doing real estate for 25 years. I still work every day.
Real estate.
I still work every day, developing, selling, buying.
But what's up with the department store?
We are, at the time, in first season, we were starting to open a department store, and offers were brought to us for us to do it on a larger level, like HSN, online, things like that. So Savannah's coming out the first with her collection for Home Shopping Network.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I'll have a line that comes out in 2018.
But what probably happened is he went bankrupt. Todd Chrisley filed for bankruptcy, walking away from $20 million of debt. This was after he had taken out $30 million in fraudulent loans. I also don't think that opening a department store in 2014 strikes me as particularly demonstrative of any kind of business savvy. In 2014, department stores were already on the way out. Malls have been on the decline for decades now. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would that be your new venture? Like, oh, I've got this hot new idea, a giant store. If you're curious, I checked out Savannah's QVC line called Faith Over Fear.
These are all Savannah's clothes, and she did an incredible job.
And I can't really picture her wearing any of the stuff that she supposedly designed. On the show, they present her as being very much a fashion girly who loves Valentino. So what's this weird tie-dye cutout? Like, who would wear this? Who is the audience for this? Also in 2014, Todd and Julie Chrisley used fabricated bank statements and a fabricated credit report that had been physically cut and taped or glued together when applying for and obtaining a lease for a house in California. They stopped paying rent shortly after they moved in and were almost immediately evicted.
You don't think that dress is too short?
This isn't the 1900s.
A lot of the show is set up so that Todd can swoop in and condemn teenage sexuality.
17-year-old boy is up to no good 90% of the time.
You gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
For instance, take this next scene. In this scene, Todd and Savannah have a heartwarming father and daughter tete-a-tete about what she's going to wear to her Sweet 16. And because of YouTube copyright restrictions, we can't show you the actual clip, but we are going to recreate it as lovingly and as accurately as possible. Hi, I'm Molly, and today I'm going to be playing the part of Todd Chrisley.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I'll be playing the part of Savannah, who's
Savannah.
16.
Who's a 16-year-old girl. Savannah can try on whatever she chooses to try on, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be a coochie cutter. There's not going to be a show for anyone. It's going to be to the knee. How long does it take to put a dress on?
You know what? It had a lot of attachments.
Well, then that's the one she needs to wear, because if it takes that long to get into it, it'll take her twice as long to get out of it.
Okay, that is rolling. Shut up! I'm not going...
No, you're saying it like, shut up!
Shut up! I'm not going to be getting out of it anywhere.
That's cute, but I don't like all this up here showing.
Well, it's not like I'm showing my whole thing.
You're not much off of there.
So I'm giving him two choices. He can pick between the two of these, and if he doesn't like them, then I'll pick.
And then you can wear whatever I don't like while you sit at home alone. You're gonna have every eye of every boy that's there.
Well...
Okay.
Bend over. I'm not going to be bending over. Like, no. You squat down, you put your legs together, but your legs to the side, and you go down.
There better not be a little breeze. You are 16 years old.
No one is going to be in my territory.
I can assure you they're not, because I'm going to have you right here. End scene. So just to be clear, the rule was never you have to wear a knee-length skirt. The rule was always you can wear what you want, but first you have to flirt with your dad on national TV. In another episode, Savannah enters a pageant, and her parents and brother show up to show their support. I hate it when I do bunny ears.
Some of the dresses showing her ass and her boobs. Oh my God.
While Savannah is walking down the runway, Todd leans over to Chase and says, "You can see it. Everything she has in that."
You could see everything that she had in that dress.
Why is that news that her brother needs? People love this pantomime of supposedly endearing, fatherly overprotectiveness, but really, if he was that way, wouldn't he just not put this on TV? Because in reality, the show is totally set up so that the audience can absolutely ogle his teenage daughter. His eldest daughter, Lindsie,
Lindsie is beautiful, she's smart, she's bitchy.
came to the show after a period of prolonged estrangement from her family. On the show, Todd makes a big deal out of the fact that her then husband didn't ask Todd for her hand in marriage, but what they leave out of the show is that she and her father weren't talking at the time she got married.
I didn't talk to my parents through college, and then we kind of started reestablishing a relationship my last semester of school. Then a pilot came along, and I didn't want to do it, but I thought, well, it's only 3 days of my life. My dad wants me to do it, so I'll do it.
One of the episodes revolves around Todd paying for Lindsie's breast implants, which he celebrates with a cake shaped like two perfectly round naked breasts, which the family eats together.
You got a booby cake?
A booby cake. Their relationship took another dark turn in 2017 when Lindsie left the show. She told Dr. Phil that she decided to make her departure after she got into an altercation with Julie, who is her stepmother. Lindsie and Kyle are Todd's children from a previous marriage.
There was an altercation that happened after the camera shut down.
Yeah. This was with your stepmother.
Yes. From that, I felt like the environment was volatile and I didn't want to be around it. I just felt like it was the best thing for my family and for my well-being.
And it gets so much worse. Lindsie also said in the Dr. Phil interview that while her father was under investigation for tax fraud in Georgia, he asked her to meet him at a restaurant where he then said that he had evidence that Lindsie was cheating on her husband with an official from Georgia, a Georgia official man. He said that he had a sex tape of them together and if that she didn't watch it, it wouldn't be good for her.
And then that's when I got the warning that Chase had incriminating evidence against me, nude photos, and had obtained this tape for $5,000. At that point, the conversation was over for me.
Father told you that his PR team was going to put out a story, and the story was that you were sleeping with a government official and told him lies about your family.
Yes.
Today, they still seem to be estranged, but Lindsie has posted some supportive words about her father on Instagram. It's not really clear where their relationship is. If what she's saying is true and he blackmailed her with a sex tape, I don't know, that's hard to bounce back from. Even if he did buy your boobs. But it wasn't Lindsie that Todd Chrisley needed to worry about ratting them out. That would be their former business partner, Mark Braddock. According to Insider, Mark Braddock admitted that he manipulated financial records, lied to the FBI, and impersonated Todd Chrisley on the phone for his own financial benefit as well as the benefit of the Chrisleys. He also claims that he and Todd had a 6-month affair.
And I heard that you're up for, what do they call it? King of Reality Award.
King or queen, whichever you believe.
Okay.
There are a lot of rumors about Todd Chrisley being gay, and I don't think it's right to try to out someone, even if you don't like them. But the subject of him being gay comes up on the Wendy Williams interview, and the way he responds to it is really strange. He basically says, for me to be in a gay relationship, there would have to be some kind of financial incentive.
Yes.
But right now I'm kind of in my lane for 48 years with a woman. If I ever decide to take that route, there'll be a check attached to it because it would not be something I do for free.
So you would come out of the closet for money?
It would be a lot of money. First of all, I'm not in the closet, but if I ever decided...
Okay, exactly. Thank you, Todd.
If I ever decided to be with a man, my great-grandchildren would never have to work.
Okay.
Which is exactly what Mark Braddock says happened. So, okay. They plan to appeal, and I think Todd Chrisley is just going to say, look, it was all their former business partner. We had no idea. Oh my God. Oh, he was gay and evil this whole time? We had no idea. Lindsie isn't the only problem child in the Chrisley family. Let's talk about Kyle Chrisley. I'm going to put this as politely and as southernly as possible. The boy ain't right. When we meet him in season 1, he's a grown man living with his grandmother and his grandmother's even older roommate. He says that his grandma cooks and cleans for him and that he's not in any hurry to move out anytime soon. That episode also addresses his drug addiction. There's this hilarious scene where Kyle is having his weekly drug test, which because of his struggles with addiction, his dad requires him to have. This leads to an exchange in the bathroom where Todd says, I'll hold it for you if I have to, meaning his son's penis. And then he says behind the bathroom door, how did you get anyone pregnant with something that small? Because you know, when your son has had struggles with addiction, what you want to do first and foremost, humiliate him on public TV. That's really gonna even things out for him. In the episode, he also sits down with his son and says, we have spent over $1 million on your rehabilitation. Again, just really amping up the guilt factor for everyone to see. Todd told E! News in 2014 of his son's drug addiction, Kyle is bipolar, and normally people that are bipolar, they seek out a way to self-medicate, which is what Kyle has done since he's been young. This to me is similar to the whole Savannah, oh my God, look at her body thing. It's like, why would you exploit your child for content, for your dumb reality show? If you're Mr. Dad, if you're just a daddy who cares so much about his kids. Seems like you don't care about your kids and you care about money. The Kyle storyline also revolves around the fact that Kyle is trying to reestablish contact with his baby daughter Chloe, who he hasn't seen since she was an infant. That would be really heartwarming, except what they leave out is that Kyle Chrisley in 2013 was charged with assaulting Chloe's mother, and he also allegedly threatened her sister with a knife. I also wanted to mention that custody battles are nothing new for Todd Chrisley. His ex-wife accused him of battery before their divorce was finalized. She also says that Todd unlawfully abducted Lindsie for 2 months in 1994. Kyle eventually also entered a new period of estrangement from his father after all this happened. In 2019, he had a really hard year. He was arrested for possession of methamphetamine and attempted to take his own life. Since then, he's reestablished contact with Todd and Julie, but who knows? My final thoughts are that if someone's willing to commodify their relationship with their children and grandchildren to the point of exploiting their children's struggle with drug addiction and mental illness and failures as a parent, they might not be the loving, benevolent patriarch that the USA Network makes them out to be. Todd and Julie Chrisley still have custody of Kyle's daughter, and she's the one I really feel sorry for in all of this. Like, part of me wants to say, throw the book at him, judge, lock him up 30 years. But then it's like, what would happen to her? I don't know. My main takeaway is that if someone has to shove it in your face how wholesome and family-oriented they are, they're not. People who walk the straight and narrow path let their boring, uncomplicated lives speak for themselves.
Last, not ass.